Let's be real. It feels like we're all fighting a war against distraction. But what if I told you we've been fighting the wrong enemy this whole time? What if the real problem isn't your phone, your notifications, or your endless inbox? What if the true source of all your distraction is actually coming from inside you? Today, we're going to dig into that idea.
You've heard the advice a million times, right? To get your focus back, you just gotta unplug. Ditch the smartphone, go on a digital detox. Sounds so simple, so pure, but does it actually work? So this quote is from Nir Eyal, an author who decided to put this whole detox idea to the ultimate test. He was totally convinced that technology was the villain in his story. But what he found out is going to completely flip how you think about distraction.
I mean, he went all in. We're talking a flip phone, a word processor from the 90s that had zero internet connection. And guess what? He still got distracted. But instead of scrolling Instagram, he'd suddenly feel the need to tidy his desk. Instead of watching YouTube, he'd just have to pick up a book he'd been meaning to read. Taking out the trash became an urgent, top priority task. The distractions didn't disappear. They just shape-shifted.
And this right here is the million-dollar question. If getting rid of all the tech didn't fix the problem, then we've been blaming the wrong thing all along. So what is the real source of our distractions?
Okay, so here it is. The real culprit is something called internal triggers. Just think about it for a second. When do you get that sudden, intense urge to check your phone? It's usually when you're feeling a little bored with your work, right? Or maybe anxious about a big project, or just plain tired. Distraction, it turns out, is just an escape route. It's how we run away from uncomfortable feelings. The problem isn't the phone in your hand. It's the discomfort you're trying to get away from.
So every time you feel one of those internal triggers, you're at a crossroads. On one path, you have traction. These are the actions that pull you towards what you really want to do. And on the other path, you've got distraction, the things that pull you away. And here's the wild part. Both of these paths start from the exact same place, that initial ping of discomfort. The only difference is what you choose to do next. Okay, so this is all great, but how do we actually deal with that discomfort without getting totally sidetracked? Well, there's a really powerful 3-step toolkit for this. First, you learn to reimagine the trigger itself. Second, you reimagine the task you're trying to avoid. And third, you reimagine your own temperament, your own mindset. Let's break down that first one.
All right, step one is about changing your whole relationship with that uncomfortable feeling. Usually our first instinct is to get mad at ourselves for feeling bored or anxious, right? That's contempt. Instead, the trick is to get curious. Next time you feel it, just notice it. What does this boredom actually feel like? Where is it in your body? Just observing it like a curious scientist, without judging it, can completely strip away its power over you.
Step 2 is all about reimagining the task itself. And no, this isn't about bribing yourself with a cookie. Research shows that stuff doesn't really work in the long run. Instead, it's about finding the play inside the work. And you do that by focusing in and looking for the hidden challenges. So instead of thinking, ugh, I have to clear my inbox, turn it into a game. How fast and how well can I fire off these next 10 replies? When you look for the challenge, you can turn pretty much any chore into a form of play.
And finally, step 3. And honestly, this one is a huge game changer. It's all about reimagining ourselves. See, we all tell ourselves stories about what we can and can't do, and one of the most damaging of these stories is the one we tell about willpower. You've definitely heard of this idea before. It's called ego depletion. It's this belief that your willpower is like a muscle that gets tired, or maybe a gas tank that just runs empty. You know, by the end of a long day, you've used it all up, so you deserve to just crash on the couch with a pint of ice cream and binge some Netflix. Sound familiar? Well, here's where things get really interesting. When other scientists tried to replicate those original willpower studies, they found something fascinating. For most people, the theory just didn't hold up. Willpower didn't seem to run out at all, except for one very specific group of people. And here is the punchline. The only people who experienced this ego depletion were the people who believed in it. That's right. According to groundbreaking research from Stanford's Carol Dweck, your willpower is only a limited resource if you think it is. It's a self-limiting belief that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that brings us to this other massive myth that's everywhere these days. This idea that technology is hijacking our brains, that we're basically powerless against these super smart algorithms. The author is crystal clear on this point. That idea is scientific rubbish.
And believing that myth is actually incredibly dangerous. It creates a psychological state called learned helplessness. Think about it. When you're told over and over again that you're powerless, that these tech companies are controlling your mind and there's nothing you can do about it, what happens? You stop trying. You give up your own power. But the truth is the complete opposite of that. We are so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. We have the ability to manage our internal triggers. We have the ability to control our own attention. And ultimately, we have the ability to choose how we live our lives. So let's just quickly recap the game plan for becoming indistractable. It all starts with noticing and naming that uncomfortable internal trigger. Then, instead of fighting it, you get curious about it. You find the play in any task to make it engaging. And maybe most importantly, you reject these bogus myths about limited willpower and technology hijacking your brain, because you are the one in control. So I'll leave you with this one final thought. Every distraction is an escape from an uncomfortable reality. So the real question isn't how you're going to avoid distraction. The real question is, what discomfort, what important truth are you finally willing to turn towards and face?